Google App Engine and the data stores as part of that free account that will set you up to use your Google, that EPMMU. If you want to use their latest products, the educational thing doesn't cover that, and that's the point where you actually have to register some sort of card so that when you go beyond a certain quota, then you sort of start to pay for it. That does change all the time. It's currently set at $300, I think, of usage of over a year before they start paying for it. But there's some sort of links with there. These are only just indicative, so don't take them as, you know, well, you said it would cost so much. You've just got to go to their sort of pricing thing to see what they're currently offering. Similar sort of idea really to what mobile phone companies do. It changes month by month as to what the latest goodies they may be offering you sort of may be. But what sort of background API they sort of give you for it, whether it's data store APIs, searching APIs, translation APIs, voice recognition APIs, a huge raft of services they offer their APIs for, and chargeable at different levels. So it's really quite complicated to work through. As I say, just fairly equivalent to all these add-ons that you can get with other contracts, whether it's a broadband contract that you get and you say, oh, you can have this add-on and this add-on and this add-on. You've got a sort of basic price and then try and sort of load it down. They're just some of the typical ones. We'll have a look when we do the actual infrastructure as a service, what additional things you can get for it. But the sort of free development that we're having, yeah, it will host a web application, will host a Java web application for you. You recognise that using that appspot.com last week. You can register a domain at appspot.com with your ID at the front. You can actually link it in if you've got your own domain name. You can link that domain name to be a front end for your AppSpot address for it. But then they offer you all the facilities for persistent storage, whether it's using this JDO, the Java Data Objects, or the Java Persistence Architecture. They do have an SQL interface that is chargeable. The JDO and JPA ones are free on your account. This auto scaling and load balancing, things that we may not necessarily come across ourselves for it just yet until we start, until your company starts taking off or something, or you're doing some perhaps stress testing on your project and you want to sort of see how it copes with 20,000 requests coming in a minute or something like that to get it. But then also all the other APIs that Google offer, whether it's their mapping ones or email ones, to be able to sort of send email through their Google account, so you can use that to sort of bulk send out emails if that's your bag or whatever to do in it. Scheduling tasks using this cron timer for it. A whole sort of range of ones. They're just indicative of some of the things that we're working with. They offer you an execution environment that they refer to as the sandbox. It does restrict your access to the underlying operating system. There's certain things that you may be able to do on your local machine that you can't do on these virtual machines. For example, you can't create files direct to it. You've got to use their data stores. You can't create multiple threads of execution of your main program. That's because they deal with that. What you might do locally yourself is to recognise that your software is running too fast, so you decide to run a separate copy of it and have multiple actual mains, your public static void mains, you have multiple ones of those running. So that goes against the whole idea of cloud execution. If you're sort of having letting your program do that, Google just does that thing automatically for you and scales up for it. Also, things like responses to web requests or scheduling must complete within a certain number of seconds before it'll auto cut out. So if you put in a request for a web request from another page. Unless it gets a request within a certain number of seconds, it'll just cut you off. People might be familiar with that if you've done some Android programming. That's a similar sort of approach happens in that if you're doing something in the main thread and it doesn't execute within a certain number of seconds, it auto stops it, the operating system in the background. So yeah, you can do Python programming within it if you like. There's the normal sort of range of libraries, Google facilities available for that. Java programming, and we saw last week that their runtime environment's Java 7. So it does mean that you're on your local compiler, you have to make sure that you're compiling in Java 7 for it, which can cause a bit of problems tweaking, and that's what some of the people have problems with either in the labs or on their home machines. Certainly I don't think the lab machines are correctly configured for JSPs running locally, although when you submit them to the cloud they work just fine. Many problems I've solved this week over email about people configuring their own sort of setup to use the right sort of JDK. So if you're having a bit of a problem, read some of the forum messages that I've sent out. They're there for it. But once you're sort of underway, then it's just as if you are writing a local program for it, or PHP if you want to sort of use that. Again, all the SDKs are available if you want to working in that sort of environment, and a lot of trial sort of things to start you off on it. You can either look at that from some of the links there, or again in the labs when we say have a look at some of the Java virtual machines, you'll see that they've got a lot of homemade tutorials on using the different environments to sort of try out. Certainly not something that you can try every single one of these, but it may be depending on what project you're working on. We're just going to be looking at the Java one here. The other thing that we're particularly going to be working on is their data store for it, which involves interacting with a database in a non-SQL type way. It can look SQL similar to it, but basically it works by annotating your basic class. You take your class of object that you're storing and you annotate it as to which ones are the primary keys, which ones are your sort of foreign keys or something like that. And it will deal with the best way of storing your data in the background. It's built for high level interaction, high level or high rate of interaction, with a high number of reads and writes to work with, which isn't the case with often other sort of databases. The things like Oracle aren't necessarily always geared up to particular styles of queries for it. They use this concept, or here, the App Engine and the data stores use this concept of what they call a big table, and just stores its data, you'll find, in two columns. You have an ID column and one field of the database table, and you have sort of multiple lines of that. Turns out to be a lot faster in terms of sort of access to sort of get in there for it. But we'll see that sort of thing coming out in the sort of lab for it. There are certain restrictions on it. Again, these things may change over time about the size of individual entities that are stored. An entity just being really one line of a database table for it, or transaction sizes, or the number of batch inserts or deletes that you can do. Now, these are just indicative of what it was, I think, even a couple of years ago now. These again can sort of change according to how well their own servers are sort of working, but they're generally aimed at sort of making sure that you don't request something like an insert of 500,000 records and it sort of slows the whole sort of thing down for you, and you don't know whether or not those updates are going on or whether it's just sort of stopped for it, or how many entities you can query to. It doesn't mean where it's saying they're limited to 1,000. You might just sort of be getting them in batches, 1,000, but there's a certain sort of limit to what, how many rows you can return at once for that. But as I say, other sort of aspects of linking into accounts, email, image manipulation, scheduling, mapping. They've got into their voice recognition ones, or voice generation. Things like text, sort of text to speech. That's the sort of thing going on. Searching mechanisms. All those Google services can be sort of brought in from it. Now, I've done this bit about it already. The bit about sort of signing up for an App Engine account and creating applications. We started doing that last week. You can get these dashboards to view how well your particular application's been doing over the period. So I'm not going to go over that, deploying your new applications in the live to it. So we did the demo to that in the lab last week for that. Now, just a quick overview on the other side to this, which is